everybody, from Common Room Radio. I'm Sarah Kate Pazan, and what are you hiding, Vinton? I'm just kidding, I don't care. Bye.
And I'm Vinton Bain, and I was just trying to be like you.
I'm Alistair Stevens, and I need you to be better. This week, you guys, Spider-Man Homecoming.
Was that a good... I feel like our energy was not as high as it usually is for that whole thing.
I think that's because we're still reeling. We literally just watched this film.
Yes.
Vinton has watched it twice in the last 12 hours, which is an extraordinary and possibly super heroic feat. We just got out of the movie theater, ate diner lunch, and came here to record.
Yeah, reeling is a good... This is my favorite superhero movie.
Yeah, I think it might be mine too.
Yeah,
it's pretty fantastic. We're going to do things a little bit different here this time since we're recording so quickly on the heels of the film. A lot of you may not have seen the film yet, so we're going to talk non-spoilers for a little while. We will give you a spoiler warning later in the episode when we're going to dive into those.
Here's a spoiler alert for you. This movie is amazing. Ultimate, even. It is the ultimate Spider-Man film.
It's pretty spectacular.
It's astonishing.
It's a tangled web. Wait, what am I doing?
Hang on, wait. It's Miles Morales. Wait.
It's Spider-Gwen.
So, before we get too much farther in, let's flip over the VHS. Underoos is back with his own movie. Rebooted once again after Sony finally realized they were dropping the ball. Iron Dad steps into a fatherly role to mentor an actually high school-aged Peter Parker as he faces off against... Batman? I mean, Birdman. I mean, Vulture. What is it with this guy? Your friendly neighborhood Spider-Man has cemented his place into the MCU, and it's so perfect, you guys. I can't even see this movie. This is my Peter Parker. This is my Spider-Man. It's so great. Yeah.
That I think covers it. That does the whole... A, you've killed Sarah.
Oh, I'm so
B, you've said pretty much everything we need to say.
Birdman.
Hey guys, remember when Michael Keaton was Batman? Remember when someone thought that was a good idea?
Was that in the year 1988, the year that I was born upon this earth?
In the year 1989,
Oh.
the year in which you were 1 year old.
I was a 1 year old.
In 91.
True.
And then the movie that was a commentary on Michael Keaton's life and his starring role in Batman, Birdman.
Yeah. Pretty crazy. Pretty crazy.
Which has Emma
career
Stone, who
trajectories.
played Gwen Stacy, so it's all connected.
It is all connected. That is true.
All you have to do is make 6 Spider-Man movies in the last 15 years, and suddenly everything is connected. It's perfect.
Yeah,
It's basically Kevin Bacon.
So I really appreciate that they rightfully don't do an origin story this time.
Yes.
And we're also not going to do that. I'm not going to tell you the history of Spider-Man here on this podcast because you probably know and don't want to hear that.
Yeah.
It's okay. I have a Wikipedia page open. I think I can pretty much gloss the origin if I need to, just to stay up with the conversation.
He was bit with a spider, right? That's how it happened.
Was it a spider? I knew he was bitten by something.
And then somebody dies. Was it his parents, Thomas and Martha?
It was his cousin. No, it was his mom, Martha.
Martha Spider-Man died, and then Peter Parker became the Spider-Man.
So this film was directed by John Watts, who is a director, producer, and screenwriter that I was completely unaware of before this.
Yeah, me too.
He's has a very short list of works of writing and directing. The horror film Clown, the thriller Cop Car, and he directed episodes of the Onion News Network TV show.
What?
That is his whole repertoire.
It's good to work. I have no idea about any of those things, but that's awesome.
When it comes to the writing credits, there is a bit more of those. John Watts did work on the screenplay as well as directing. The team of Jonathan Goldstein and John Francis Daly worked on the screenplay and the story together. And then we also have Christopher Ford, Chris McKenna, and Eric Summers also working on the screenplay there. Jonathan Goldstein is a screenwriter, director, television writer, producer, known for his work on The PJs, if you remember that show.
Yes. Oh, wow.
PJs.
Yes.
Wait, yeah, I do.
Yeah, also worked on The New Adventures of Old Christine, Horrible Bosses, and the Vacation film with John Francis Daly, who's his writing partner. John Francis Daly is Sam Weir from Freaks and Geeks, one of my favorite shows.
Oh my gosh.
So those two work together pretty often. You might also know him from Bones. He played, I think, Lance Sweets on Bones. Also worked on Horrible Bosses and did the incredible Burt Wonderstone and Vacation with his writing partner. Chris McKenna, on the other hand, has worked on American Dad, Community, and The Mindy Project. He is actually known for writing some of the most critically acclaimed episodes of Community, including Paradigms of Human History, Conspiracy Theories and Interior Design, and Remedial Chaos Theory. So there's a lot of community connections there, and he actually has worked with the Russo brothers on that sitcom, of course, and then he also contributed to the script of The Winter Soldier.
So what we're learning is that if you want a really good standout superhero film, you grab comedy TV show writers and make them do your superhero film.
I think specifically Community and Arrested Development. That's
specifically
right.
those, yes.
Exactly.
That if you want a good superhero movie, hire good writers.
Yeah.
This is
Speaking
what
of,
we're doing.
Eric Summers was the co-executive producer on Community, and he worked on the screenplay. He also worked on the screenplay for Lego Batman, which I think is
love
a good
Lego
pull.
Batman. Oh my gosh, we need to do
Very
Lego
good movie.
Batman.
Yes.
We sure do. Christopher Ford is the last of the screenwriters, and the reason he's a screenwriter on there is he actually works with John Watts pretty often. They wrote all their movies together that they've done up to this point. But this doesn't seem like a film that was written in a bunch of pieces.
Seriously,
it seems like a team really nailed this thing down.
Right. Whenever we got to the end of the film and it showed that there were, 3 teams of 2 who worked, so 6 writers on this movie, gobsmacked, I think is a good word, because like our general rule is like, what, if you get like 3 or more writers, then it's just complete garbage and everything like just goes straight to hell in a handbasket. But this movie, I feel like the script was really tight. It was, everything, it's just, God, this movie is so good. And I really was just absolutely shocked that we had that many writers, but they really did knock it out of the park. This movie is a triumph.
Right. And then in the movie, we have starring Tom Holland, as we already were introduced to.
You mean Peter Parker? You mean we just have Peter Parker?
Finally, we have a young Spider-Man, and he feels like he's even a little younger than he actually is in real life, which I really appreciate that he can play a 15-year-old, even though I think he's like 18 or 19 at this point.
He was turned 20 while shooting this movie.
Wow, he's such a little guy.
Little baby guy. We also have Michael Keaton, of course, Batman, Birdman, and now the Vulture. We also have Zendaya, whose name I had heard a lot, but I can tell I'm getting older because I had no idea who this was going into the film. Apparently some Disney Channel, some singing career.
Yes.
She's really popular with the kids these days, I hear. But she was fantastic in this
She
film.
was so
I really
good.
loved her.
Very good.
And then playing Flash, we have Tony Revolori. I'm not sure if I'm pronouncing that right, but I really loved him in Grand Budapest Hotel.
Yes,
He had a
yes.
really standout role there, so I was excited to see him step into this role. And I really actually like that they don't have the big white guy jock here as the bully, because it's not really what you see as bullies anymore in the world that we live in, where cyberbullying is way more the thing, and it's really hateful commenters and that type of thing that you don't have to be big and buff to be a bully anymore.
Yeah.
No,
You can be
have to
the small
vicious.
guy. Yes.
With a popped collar.
Exactly.
Flash Thompson is the worst. I'm going to habitually refer to him as Flash Thompson, even though he's not credited as Flash Thompson. His surname is probably not Thompson, you guys. It's probably something else, but it doesn't matter. Flash Thompson is the archetypal bully, and this is a brilliant version of that character for 2017. I'm hesitating only over the year because I'm not entirely sure when this movie is set.
No.
Maybe 2020?
Yeah, we know that it is 8 years after the events of the first Avengers movie. We get that for sure, right there at the beginning. There's something later on that tells us that the first Iron Man movie took place in 2008, so it cements it there for us. But we really, either this is taking place in 2020 or Avengers took place in 2009, a year after Iron Man became Iron Man. So I don't know.
Yeah, that doesn't hold any water at all for me, particularly with the specific reference in the movie to Iron Man becoming Iron Man in 2008. We have to be in 2020 in the MCU now, which is actually fine. I don't have a problem with that. What's most interesting is that this pushes Civil War all the way back to 2020 as well, which is really interesting. We've got some space now. We've talked a lot while we were discussing the Cap movies about this timeline and about the fact that the Cap stories in particular have taken place within a very short span of time. That doesn't now seem to be true.
Oh, wait. Okay, so hang on. If we're switching the events of Civil War over to 2020, does that mean that we're also changing when Age of Ultron happened?
I have no idea.
Because if we aren't, that means that like Wanda has been a part of that team for like 4 years now at that point?
For like a good long time.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's why, which suddenly it makes sense why nobody's mentioning Pietro.
Timey-wimey, wibbly-wobbly.
None of it makes sense. Yeah, it really doesn't matter in the end.
It's like we mentioned with X-Men movies. Every time they do an X-Men movie, they go, now this is the truth, and forget what we've said in the past.
Yeah.
Yes, nothing that has happened before actually happened.
Right.
There are some interesting notes about people that could have been in this film that I want to point out. Bryan Cranston had shown a lot of interest in playing a Marvel villain, particularly Norman Osborn / the Green Goblin, which would be really interesting and maybe interesting in the future to see something from that.
Could have been. I had the dubious fortune to watch the new Power Rangers movie this last week in which Bryan Cranston plays Zordon. He's fine. He's Bryan Cranston. That movie's a weird, weird film. It succeeds in a number of ways in which it should not conceivably succeed, and then fails to hit everything that you would expect a Power Rangers movie to do. We're not here to talk about Power Rangers, but let me tell you, in this 2-hour movie, it takes an hour and a half for the Power Rangers to show up. an hour and a half before they morph, you guys.
That's ridiculous.
It is. But before that, there's a lot of teen drama that isn't Power Rangers, but is actually pretty good. It's a weird film. I'm sorry. I just have Power Rangers on my mind a lot these days. It's fine. Go back to your Spider-Man.
Well, one of the things that we all knew going into this movie that we weren't going to see, because it's been all in the news, is that they weren't going to pull anything from the Daily Bugle, that J. Jonah Jameson wasn't going to be in this story because they're focusing on the high school, and so that part of his life isn't going to be a part of it yet. But J.K. Simmons had expressed interest in returning to his reprise his role from the Sam Raimi trilogy, but now, of course, he's Commissioner Gordon for the Justice League.
Wait, what?
Very interesting.
Oh, yeah.
He buffed up, too.
Oh,
If you haven't
old
seen
muscly man.
he's terrifying.
Yeah.
He's terrifying now.
Spider-Man better get him those, or Peter Parker better get him those pictures of Spider-Man.
Or he will tear his arms off.
That's right.
Oh my God.
Spider-Man
Yeah.
or no Spider-Man, your arms are gone. Vincent D'Onofrio has also shown interest in appearing as Wilson Fisk / the Kingpin, reprising his role from Daredevil. But
he did an amazing job with that. I didn't watch all of Daredevil,
Oh, no.
but he
Yeah,
was
he's
fantastic.
He's one of the best villains I've seen portrayed on TV for sure. It was amazing, and he really did want to come into the Spider-Man universe. They still are putting that off, saying we're not going to combine these. They're technically in the same universe. We're not going to combine anything. It's really bothering me.
I'm
wish they would
sorry.
do something with it.
Sony, if you can hear my voice right now, you've already done it. This is the most MCU movie that we have seen.
I
This
literally
is
just read
so
a Time
MCU.
article that said this is the most Marvel movie that ever marveled.
It is insane how connected this is.
Yeah,
We were talking
yeah.
about the trailer to Spider-Man Homecoming and how excited we were. And, well, it's going to be great that we'll get Spider-Man and probably a cameo from Robert Downey Jr. But hey, let's be honest, that's going to be it. Sony's not actually going to connect this to the rest of the MCU.
Sure.
This is so profoundly, fundamentally integrated with the rest of the MCU, and I am thrilled for
Like
that.
literally, if Avengers hadn't happened, this movie would not happen.
Exactly right. We get
Like
to
not
see-
just in real life, but like within the fiction of the film.
Yeah, absolutely. And we get shots of Civil War from a new POV
Which
within
is
this
so
film.
good.
Yeah, which I thought was just going to be
astounding.
advertising when we got those teasers from that, but that's actually part of
Yeah.
the movie, which I thought was really great idea to do there. And my main point on that though was just that I wish that that Marvel would allow the Netflix stuff to be more part of the movies, because they
Yeah,
get to
or
mention
even the
it, but they're
ABC
not really
stuff.
integrating anything. It'd be really cool if we could see Kingpin step in, because Kingpin is a villain of Spider-Man in the comics quite often, more often than not even.
Yeah.
He has become a bigger villain of Daredevil through the years, but he was always part of an integral villain of Spider-Man as well.
There's a profound tonal challenge if you're going to have Tom Holland go up against Vincent D'Onofrio.
like
Because
it.
Daredevil is very, very dark. And
Yeah.
I'm not sure how you managed to
I don't know.
navigate
I mean,
that.
Tom Holland dies, right? That's Death of Spider-Man. and that's when we, bring in Spider-Gwen.
Is reduced to his constituent parts
Yes.
by the fists of Vincent D'Onofrio. That's the only way that plays out. I mean, I get it. I like that. I think it's probably smarter for the Netflix shows to be siloed off in their own little continuum there, because they can then be more adult and we don't have to connect them
Sure.
back to the mainstream MCU. I would like to see stronger connections between the MCU movies and the stuff that's happening on ABC right now.
Right, yeah.
We'll see how that goes with the Inhumans, which we
Yeah, I
discussed
guess
last week.
so.
One of the interesting pieces of production notes was that originally with the Sam Raimi trilogy, they were going to be making a fourth one. They'd already started planning out. Vulture was going to be the bad guy in that one, and they had actually cast John Malkovich to play the Vulture, so he could have
that's so
been playing
interesting.
the Michael Keaton role there, which I think would have totally fit those films better, and
Oh,
would
yeah.
not have played well in this film.
No, I completely agree. I think Michael Keaton is astonishing in
He
this movie.
is, I think, my favorite antagonist in all the MCU. And you all know how much like Ultron has a place in my heart.
Yeah, he's right up there.
He's
and
very good.
human and flawed and
Yes.
frail in a really interesting way. Yeah.
We gotta hurry up and get
I
through
know.
this like spoiler-free zone because man, I want to talk about this movie.
It's also interesting to me that we have Iron Man as this mentor role, like we see in all the trailers and all of the advertising. Really,
Yes.
Iron Man is
Yeah,
there.
yeah.
God, he does such a good job.
Nick Fury was originally going to be Peter's mentor in this film, but because I guess of the chemistry that the two actors had in Civil War, they decided to switch that over, and I'm really glad they did.
I'm super glad too because as we know, like from the history of this podcast, Nick Fury only collects like powerful young women to mentor. Like he stays away from the guys.
So yeah, this, as I mentioned in the flip the VHS part, is my Peter Parker. This is my Spider-Man. This is so much fun. The way Spider-Man is even animated in this is so much more real to me from what I see in the comics than any of the other films have been. The way he flops around and flips, even like takes a fall here and there. He's not perfect. He's learning his powers. He's figuring out how to do this thing. Oh, and it just felt so right. I've never felt it be more like the comics. And in a lot of ways, that's kind of weird to say because the comics started in the 60s.
Right.
But I think they really took a really good note from the Ultimate Spider-Man to adapt and move forward with what culture looks like now, what being in high school looks like now. And then, of course, the director of this film really pushed John Hughes movies on all the actors, having them watch Ferris Bueller's Day Off and The Breakfast Club and these things as movie marathons before actually filming. And you really feel that you get this 80s vibe. And not to mention there is like an 80s dance themed party going on in high school, but there's just everything, all sorts of different things. Like one of the things that happens right away that you see just slightly in the trailer, but you don't get what is actually going on. He's running through some backyard, Spider-Man is, because he's in Queens and there's no buildings to swing off, which is hilarious.
Yeah.
He's like realizing he can't swing off anything. He's like, this sucks. And he's running through backyards and he goes into the pool scene that you see in the trailer where he splashes into the pool. But what you don't see is that Ferris Bueller's Day Off is playing at that pool.
Yep.
And it's the same scene of him running through the backyards. It's just such a great homage to those John Hughes films that really do play in making the high school aspects of this film feel so right.
Well, this is the important thing about Spider-Man Homecoming, I think, is that we've talked before, I think, mostly about Batman and the degree to which Batman is the man and Bruce Wayne is the disguise or vice versa. This movie is actually Peter Parker Homecoming.
Yes.
Peter Parker happens to be Spider-Man in this film, but Spider-Man is not the true identity. There's less of a division, less of a distinction between those two sides of his character than we traditionally see in Spider-Man movies, and certainly in the original Spider-Man comics. I am so in for a 2-hour high school drama featuring these characters without any superheroics whatsoever. They're just great and compelling, beautifully drawn, very modern and diverse and progressive characters. I'm in love with that side of this movie. Yeah. Utterly. Sarah, how did this read on high school work for you?
I mean, I think it's perfect. You know, whenever we did Winter Soldier, we were talking about this is a 1970s spy thriller disguised as a superhero movie. Sure. And I really feel like Spider-Man Homecoming is a John Hughes high school movie disguised as a superhero film. And I mean, it just... Gosh, it worked out so beautifully. I was immediately, and like, okay, whenever we've had 5 Spider-Man films prior to this date in the last 15 years, which is redonkulous. But like, I always thought, okay, Peter Parker's fine, like whatever. Like, I really like the Andrew Garfield ones because I thought Andrew Garfield was super cute. But I mean, I was immediately connected to Tom Holland's Peter Parker and like just believed everything he was doing on screen. Like, I mean, okay, you guys went and saw that we all 3 got to go see this movie together, which is a rare thing. We almost never get to do that, but I'm glad that we did today. And I mean, like, I was so concerned for him all the time. I wanted him to succeed, and I was so worried. I would get really big feelings about it, and just, I don't know, it was perfect. It's my favorite superhero movie. Like, I always had, you know, like Avengers and Age of Ultron on the top of my list. Spider-Man is on top of that now. Wow. That's my favorite one. Everything else goes below it.
So to what degree is that a success for the film, and to what degree is that a success for the character? Do you consider yourself now a Spider-Man fan?
I think so. Yeah? Like, I mean, I don't know... I bet like comic book wise, I would be much more interested in like reading like stories about Miles Morales and like because he's still in high school right now. So I don't know if I would be interested in comic Peter Parker, who basically is Tony Stark now with like his big business, whatever.
Yeah. In the 616 at least.
Yes, in the 616. So I don't know if I would be as interested in that, but I don't know. I think maybe both. I mean, I think this movie is brilliant and wonderful, and I really do. Like, I love this Peter Parker. I adore him. I think that he is trying so hard. He's trying harder than literally everybody else in the MCU. Like, no other hero is working as hard as Peter Parker.
There is a relentless clumsiness, but an energy, an irrepressible energy to all of the choreography in the movie, whether it's just athletic sequences or it's the fight sequences. Peter is trying, just constantly trying. And you're right, Vinton. He takes stumbles. He'll slip up. He'll fall. He'll crash through the roof of a shed at one point. He'll just pick himself up, dust himself off, and keep going. Right. That is what makes him a hero.
Yeah, and I think that's why Tom Holland is the perfect casting here, because you have Spider-Man in the movie here wanting to be a part of this thing that's bigger than him, wanting to be a part of this thing with these other heroes who are bigger than him, and wanting to step up and fill these shoes of a hero. And what does a hero look like? But he's new to this and he doesn't know what he's doing. And you have an actor who is in that same position where he's wanting to make a name for
Yes.
himself and step up to these bigger shoes like these other actors like Robert Downey Jr., who
Yeah.
is prolific at this point. And so he wants this just as much as the character wants what he wants.
Yeah.
And so that energy just transposes right into it perfectly.
Yeah. Yeah.
So before we jump into our spoiler comments, where does this movie fall for you? Let's go ahead and throw that out there for our listeners. How did you feel about this movie overall?
I really do. Okay, so like I think that in my top 5 superhero movies right now, I think that it's Spider-Man: Homecoming, Civil War, Avengers, and Age of Ultron together at number 3, and then probably Winter Soldier and Captain America.
No Wonder Woman in that top 5?
Oh, sorry. Yeah, Wonder Woman's in there somewhere. Spider-Man, Wonder Woman, MCU, rest of MCU.
Okay, the rest of the MCU.
Sure.
Nice.
It is, for me, definitely a top 3 movie. It might be my number 1 movie. I have to see it again and think more
Right,
about it. It
right.
is still very fresh and raw and urgent and brilliant and dazzling. But yeah, definitely top 3 superhero movies of all time. And conceivably, like in my top 10 list of all movies of all time,
Sure.
it's incredibly good.
Yes. Yeah, and I don't want to be too capricious because, I mean, obviously when we did Wonder Woman, I was waxing poetic about how great. And I still think that Wonder Woman is an amazing film and absolutely brilliant and one of my favorites. But, I mean, I did just get out of the theater seeing this movie. But I don't remember where I ended up ranking Wonder Woman. But, I mean, like, these are 2 of the best superhero films I've ever seen,
Yeah, it's
ever.
extraordinary.
Ever.
Absolutely.
The fact that these movies just keep getting better is so insane to me. Everyone every year is like, well, the superhero movies are over. They're going to die now. They're just going to start getting bad. I keep hearing that every year. And every year it just becomes less and less true.
Yeah.
It gives me so much hope for Ragnarok and Black Panther. Those
Yes.
movies are going to be
Yeah.
phenomenal.
And those are 2 perfect examples of the kind of narrative diaspora that we're seeing within the superhero space. You're right. This is a John Hughes movie disguised as a superhero movie. And Guardians of the Galaxy is a space cartoon disguised as a superhero
Right.
movie.
Absolutely.
It might just be a space
It might-
cartoon.
that's fair. Actually, for Guardians, that's super fair.
Yeah,
But
not
again,
disguised, but it just has like a label.
the idea that you can use superheroics not to limit and constrain your stories, but to just literally empower your stories,
Yeah.
to raise them to this melodramatic state, I think that's perfect. And we're saying Wonder Woman is a war movie.
Yes.
Spider-Man is, a homecoming high school date movie, essentially. These stories are going to continue to expand as we begin to draw more and more genres into the superhero
Yes.
universe.
Yes.
Superhero storytelling isn't a genre, it's a tone. It's
Yes.
a style. And that's all. We're going to get superhero horror movies, and we're going to get superhero westerns, and we're going to get superhero
Has there
rom-coms.
been a
And it's all going to be
superhero horror
magnificent.
movie?
I'm just not thinking that there was, in fact, a superhero western. Did they make the Jonah Hex movie? I never
They
saw
did
the
make
Jonah
the
Hex
Jonah
I never
Hex
movie.
saw
movie.
it, but they definitely made it.
Cowboys
Also,
and Aliens is
Blade the
weirdly
horror
good.
movie, I think.
That is a weirdly good movie.
My favorite part about Cowboys and Aliens is Olivia Wilde.
That's
so-
everyone's favorite part. But
Ew.
yes, it's a
And
solid
Daniel
piece of
Craig
work.
and Harrison
Yeah.
Ford. A lot of eye
Good
candy in that
cast in
film.
movie.
So this movie for me, last night when I saw it, I told my wife that it's at least in my top 3 for sure. It's definitely in there somewhere. And I think the other movies in my top 3 are definitely Civil War and Guardians of the Galaxy. I think still hold up there for me. Without just doing it off the top of my head, I might be forgetting something. But walking away from it on the second viewing, I thought for sure I'd have a more critical eye on it this
Sure.
time. This time I'd be able to see some things I didn't like. I liked it more the second time.
Oh, that's
and
so
even
good.
things I was critical on the first time, I then found reasons for the second time why I shouldn't be as critical about them. And so it just made me, I really just fell way more in love. And I can now say that this is my favorite superhero film, maybe my favorite film of all time, being that I love superhero films more than regular films.
It does feel as though it's got some of that Civil War complexity to it. There's a lot of machinery right under the surface of
Yeah.
this movie. And even from a first viewing, I can see that a lot of it connects. A lot of it, supports the superstructure of the film. So I'm really looking forward to seeing this movie again.
Yes.
Yeah.
Possibly this evening as soon as we're done with this recording. and then seeing how it all works under
Right.
the surface. Yeah.
And I'm really excited for Thor Ragnarok. As we mentioned,
Yeah.
I expect Thor Ragnarok to mess up my top 3 too. We'll
Really?
see, but I expect Thor Ragnarok and Black Panther to both knock into my top 5 for
It
sure.
would be kind of amazing to come out of this year with a brand new top 3 superhero
Seriously.
movie list with
Yeah.
Spider-Man Homecoming, Wonder Woman, and Thor Ragnarok.
Yeah.
I think if those movies are pitched at you, if you are responsive to that kind of storytelling, you could definitely have your entire top 3 thrown out by this year. Then I wanted to ask you how this movie rates for you, not just as a superhero film, but as a perspective on Spider-Man. As the listeners know, you and I are both big Spidey fans.
right.
This version of this character, is he up there for you in the best realizations of Peter Parker?
Is he the perfect Peter Parker?
He really is. And this is the first time that we've seen, like I mentioned, a younger character. And I think that's really important to the character. We can't start him out as being 18, even though the actor's 30.
Yeah.
And I just feel like this high school thing is so perfect. And then his personality, like we mentioned, the striving to it, the want for this, the desire to be this thing, and being pushed by something. Of course, you don't get great power comes with great responsibility, thankfully, this time. But the spirit of it is there.
Restraint
it's there.
in this movie. It's amazing.
Yeah, there's a couple times where you're just almost feeling like Tony's going to say it, but he doesn't.
Tony Stark would never say that.
I'm going to say outright. If Tony Stark had said that line, I would have walked out of the movie theater.
Well, that's exactly
Tony Stark, you are not my dad.
That's the MCU movie that Sony was going to make.
Right,
Instead, we got the MCU movie that Marvel made and Sony profited from.
Yes.
Thankfully. Thank you, Lord Jesus. But yes, this is exactly what I want from the comics. And it's hard to do because you have so many comics to take from. You have so many years. We literally have 60 years of Spider-Man comics almost. We're coming up on 60 years of Spider-Man comics here. And that's a lot to pull from, and you have to then modernize it. And so there's are going to be things that aren't going to line up exactly, but I think they did such a perfect job of bringing him into current times, bringing him into this Marvel Cinematic Universe where you already built a universe where things are different and things can't be necessarily the same as in the comics because of changes they've already made. And yet he fits so perfectly into this, and he fits so perfectly into our time, and he fits so perfectly into who Spider-Man is to me and what he means to me.
He also fits so perfectly into our hearts.
I had a little Tom Holland shaped hole in my heart this whole time, and I didn't know. Now I'm a real boy. What I loved, you're absolutely right. I think that this is a necessarily MCU movie because this Spider-Man is coming into his power in the wake of the Battle of New York.
Yeah.
We begin the movie with a discussion of the Battle of New York during the first Avengers movie, with the devastation rained down on us by the Chitauri.
Right.
This Spider-Man has never grown up in a world without this threat.
Yeah.
And that's crucial, I think, to his understanding of who he is.
He would have been, 8 years old when that happened?
Yeah.
7, 8?
Enormously powerful for a kid from Queens. I completely agree. It's interesting that right at the end of the credits for this movie, and stick around through the credits for this movie, you guys, this is a little post-credit sequence that's definitely worth watching. Right at the end of the credit sequence, there is a special thanks to list, and the first name on that list is Brian Michael Bendis. And that is because this version of Peter Parker really is just the ultimate version of Peter Parker from the Ultimate Universe.
As soon as I was done watching it the first time, I said, we have to cover Ultimate Spider-Man Volume 1 on the podcast.
Which now feels weirdly dated because that was written in like the year 2000, 1999 even, possibly.
I was in high school when I was picking those single issues up from the comic shop.
So they've updated it, but nobody has a cell phone. And computers are large and unwieldy and so on and so forth. But it feels modern and it feels youthful and it feels vibrant in exactly the way that Spider-Man should. This is absolutely right up there for me with the very best depictions of Spider-Man in any medium ever. He's my guy. He's my guy. And here he is. And I'm so, so glad. It was only, I guess, maybe 15 minutes into the movie when I was absolutely certain that this was going to be a success. I was absolutely certain that they got the tone right. They got the characterization right. It was only then that I realized how worried I had been that this was going to be an utter disaster. Because if this movie had been bad, that's it. Sony has no actual tie to Marvel.
Right.
This could have just killed the Spider-Man movie, the Spider-Man character outright. And he just wouldn't have been around for Civil War II, for Infinity War, for whatever. He would have just disappeared.
Hey, what happened to that kid from Queens? I knew, what kid?
He's dead now.
He's dead now. He died.
Now. Vincent D'Onofrio killed him.
Well, with that, let's go ahead and head into the spoiler. I'm not going to call it the spoiler zone because it's the whole podcast.
Yeah. Pause the podcast. Go watch the movie. Now watch it again. Now read the Wikipedia page. Now watch it again. Now listen to the rest of the podcast. Those are your instructions.
Yes. From here on out, there be spoilers.
Man, I can't believe that Vulture wound up being Peter Parker's dad. That was the wildest part.
I can't believe his mom's name was Martha this whole time.
I can't believe Donald Glover ended up being Uncle Ben.
It was weird when Deadpool showed up, though, right? I mean, that was unexpected.
Not only unexpected, but like I was really uncomfortable with like how touchy-feely Deadpool was with 15-year-old Peter Parker.
He was naked the whole time. That's
it
what
was
made it
weird, is what I'm saying.
The Spidey Pool fandom has too much control, apparently.
All right, real talk. Spidey Pool fandom bothers me. Anyway, moving on.
That's fair.
There's a lot of it.
Yeah, I know.
It's out there.
It pops up on my pictures from time to time. I somehow get trapped there.
Which I did like the call out to that by Liz in the gym scene where she's talking about having a crush on Spider-Man, and her friend goes,
"What if he's all burned
under there?" And I was like Deadpool.
It's so good, you guys. This
movie is
movie's
so
so good. I kind of just want to read through a list of Easter eggs and talk about all the ways in which
I've got
this
one. Yeah, hang on, let me
connects
pull it
to
up.
the rest of the MCU. I
Right.
could never have expected it to be this ambitious, to be this complicated, to be this integrated, or to be crucially this respectful. I love that this is a movie that takes Peter Parker seriously. We never play him for a joke in this movie. We
No,
never
not
take
at all.
this notion of heroism for granted. We never use it as the butt of a joke. And I'm super into that.
This movie, though.
One of the things I was really excited about is even though we already knew that Kenneth Troy was going to be in this, and we knew that he was going to be playing, or we thought that he was going to be playing a descendant of Jim Morita from the Howling Commandos, Captain America. He actually was. He's the principal of the school, and then you see his the picture of Jim up there on his desk or over on the shelf there. And there's also a picture of a group of people, but there's a glare, so you can't see what it is. But I'm assuming it's the Howling Commandos.
Standing there
You'd
with Peggy and
assume so.
Steve. Yeah.
Right? Yeah.
So that was really exciting. Also at the school, you had the murals that had like Albert Einstein. Those people also had Howard Stark.
Yes.
And it had Abraham Erskine, Dr. Erskine from Captain America.
Which makes my heart
So
glad.
fantastic.
And in the back of the science classroom with the pictures of famous scientists, there's a picture there of Mark Ruffalo as Bruce
Yes.
Banner, which is
Yes,
just
yes.
great.
Yeah, and then we also had Jennifer Connelly playing the voice of the spider suit, which I knew, you heard it a little bit in the trailer, but I just didn't think about it. I didn't think, oh, Spider-Man has his own Jarvis now.
Yeah.
And it turns out it's Paul Bettany's wife.
She does a great job. I
What a great
love Karen.
connection.
I just assumed that Karen was a concept like from the comics. And so whenever I was asking you guys about that when we went to the diner, I was like, okay, so tell me about Karen. And you both were like, no, it's just a movie thing. And I was like, yes, though, this
It's
is
so
so
good.
good.
Yeah.
And I'm racking my brain trying to figure out if the name Karen has any meaning, and I
Yeah,
genuinely
I know
think that
there
it
is a
doesn't.
Karen in Spider-Man, and I'm drawing a blank.
When we got to the naming scene, I was convinced by that point, because the movie was playing so fast and loose with its own continuity, that he was going to call the suit AI Mary Jane or Gwen or one of these significant names, or Uncle Ben. I don't know. That probably would have been less appropriate, but I'm figuring that he would have done something, more direct there. But this is another movie, just like Wonder Woman, that dodges all of these traps. There are so many moments throughout Spider-Man Homecoming where I'm thinking, don't do it.
It's just so fantastic to me that we get Donald Glover here, especially with all of his wanting to be Spider-Man for so long.
Yeah, that was a campaign that I was fully behind,
Yeah.
by the way, and I still think that he would have been magnificent just a few years
Right.
ago. I think he would have been perfect as
Yeah.
Spider-Man. I am so glad to have Donald Glover in this movie, and I love the way that it connects to the entire mythology surrounding Miles Morales as a character. It's beautifully done.
Yeah, as soon as they show that he's the Prowler, aka the
Yeah.
Prowler in the Spidey cam there, and then later he says, I have a nephew, and you're just like, oh, it's Miles. It's
That's
Miles.
Miles.
Is going to be here sometime, hopefully, I assume. So it would be great. It's
In a
great.
few years.
Yeah. But even a little bit of time, because Peter Parker has to be able to be a mentor to this kid, I would assume.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So I've got a list here from I think it's Time of all of the Easter eggs throughout this
Sure.
film. So it talks about how there are references to the Avengers everywhere. Obviously, we've got Avengers Tower. We see the gang in the bank dressed up as the Avengers.
It opens up right after the Battle of New York.
Yep, exactly.
With that amazing Chitauri Leviathan right
That-
there on the
yeah,
ground.
that hugely. Yes. Oh God, it's so good.
Which, speaking of, one of the things that I didn't really pick up on at first until my second watch was that the Vulture runs a scavenging company. He's a scavenger.
Oh,
like
yeah.
a vulture.
Oh, that's so clever. I'm really
It's
into
so
that.
great, yeah.
That's really good. We get that whole other perspective on the battle at the airport from Civil War, which is so good. We see like the little CGI Scarlett Johansson way back in the background.
That's so funny.
It's
so
really good.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that was really fantastic. We've got a teacher lecturing about the Sokovia Accords, and we also get, the joke from the gym teacher after we see the cat video where it's like, I'm pretty sure that guy's a war colonel now, but whatever.
So great.
So good. The Captain America PSAs, which were amazing. Absolutely.
Yep. Yep.
They were so good.
All the way up till the very last one that you wait all the way through the credits, and then he gives you a little speech on patience. And how
Yes.
you don't always get something great. Sometimes it's not what you wanted, and you wonder, why did I wait for this?
Yeah.
And then he just looks off camera. How many more of these? Which is what leads me to believe that Steve Rogers did not want to do these. Someone made him do these.
I have no trouble believing that Steve Rogers signed up to make PSAs for high schools.
But
I
then,
love
that
that
was
idea.
the last one he made, and he was like, how many of these you guys want me to do? I've done like 20 now.
Why am I doing the one on like female health? I don't understand.
Your Captain America is why.
Your body's going through a lot of changes, and that's something I know about.
Maybe you think it's cool, but if some guy who was frozen for 65 years, that's a dumb joke, Cap. Pepper Potts comes back, which was
Pepper
amazing.
Potts comes back, which is extraordinary.
How
I
much
was
money
so
did we
surprised to
give
see her.
Gwyneth Paltrow to come back?
I mean, it has to have been a lot.
A lot, right?
A lot. I mean, part of the reason that she's been written out of the MCU is just I think that there isn't space for her in Tony's story. We want to do something else with Tony.
Kind of like
And
what
now
we
that
had to do with Jane Foster.
Exactly right. Yeah, we just don't have space for her in Thor's ongoing story, which is fine, actually. I'm good with that. And I'm honestly fine with Pepper not being there either. But I like her coming back now because it suggests that Tony has reached a kind of peaceful state.
Yeah, trying to really get his life together and trying to, so I thought that was really, really good. They, at their decathlon, their trivia game, one of the answers to a question is vibranium, talking about Cap's shield and Black Panther's suit. We see our Stanley cameo. And then apparently there's a bunch of Spider-Man callbacks. We get the Spider-Man theme that's going over the Marvel logo at the beginning.
Which is so good.
This is so good to me because I am really sold on this headcanon of the fact that since Sony is getting the profits of this, they're in control, but they're not doing any of the creative things, that they probably wrote it in their contract that our logo has to show up first. So the movie opens up and it says Sony.
Yes.
And then we go to this whole scene with the Vulture, this 5-minute long thing. And then the Marvel logo drops with the Spider-Man thing. And Marvel's like, yeah, you can go first, but we're going to make it to where you're forgotten. And everyone's going to remember the Marvel logo coming down, the Spider-Man theme playing, and that introing the movie.
I absolutely forgot that this was a Sony movie. I mean, immediately, as soon as the logo was off, I mean, like, I think it was, I don't know, it was like I had consumed Voidfish Acre about the studio Sony, and I see it there, but it's just static in my eyeballs. There's a nice Adventure Zone cut for everybody out there.
Technically, consuming the ichor of the Voidfish would mean that you remembered.
Oh, you're right.
Sony.
Yeah, someone fed Sony to the Voidfish.
I wish they would.
We get Shocker showing up, 2 different versions of Shocker.
Both versions of Shocker
both
from
versions of
the
Shocker.
mainstream comics
That's
continuity,
right.
which is great. We also get the Scorpion showing up.
Yes.
Which is a nice
Why
little
are
nod.
all of Spider-Man's villains named after animals?
Well, according to J. Michael Straczynski
Yep,
back in the
it
90s, it's
changed,
because of
though.
animal totems.
That's right. He gave
What?
it reasoning.
Magical animal totems.
And then that was quickly forgotten, and
Yup.
sometimes gets brought up like it wasn't forgotten, but is mostly forgotten.
Yeah. The
That's
real answer
silly.
is Steve Ditko in the 60s.
Well, yeah, because comics in the 60s, you guys.
Because it's a spider versus all these other creatures. And then you also have to ask, why are all of Spider-Man's villains always old people?
Yep.
And he's so young. It's because it's that idea of the young going against the old, the rebellious versus
countercultural
the-
rebellion.
Yeah,
Okay, I think I
exactly.
can kind of see where you would get animal totems though, because I mean, like if you're looking at a spider as like an Anansi type archetype, and where he's like this trickster character and all
Yep.
this stuff. Okay, I see. It's dumb, but I see where they got
but
it.
that was Spider-Man's deal back in the day, was that he was often pitched against characters who were just much more physically powerful than he was. And that's something that I think oftentimes gets lost in adaptations,
Yeah.
but not in this adaptation.
Right.
He's smart and he's fast.
Yes.
Those are his primary characteristics
Yes,
when it comes
absolutely.
to combat.
We only reference Uncle Ben. We don't actually say his name. We
For the
don't have
first time.
for the first time ever.
Yeah.
We don't have to watch Uncle Ben get gunned down by some dude. Thank God. I mean,
other
like,
5
are you
recent
listening?
Spider-Man
Batman
also.
versus Superman. You did a bad. You didn't have to show us Bruce Wayne's parents dying again. Again. Can't you just be a friendly neighborhood Spider-Man? Tony says to Peter.
Pretty nice.
Mm-hmm.
And then
Yes.
Spider-Man spends much of the third act of the movie running around in what is Ben Reilly's Scarlet
Basically,
Spider
yeah.
outfit.
He's got the red hood over with the sleeveless, which is it's pretty great. It's not as cool looking as Ben Reilly's because it's not as well tailored. He's just a kid who threw together a suit and has the mechanical eyes. I'm assuming he looked at the other costume and figured out how to make or something. I don't know, but they're well done. Yeah.
Yeah, no,
it's
very, very good.
fantastic,
This is your chance to kiss her. Karen tells Peter whenever he's saved Liz in the elevator, referring to the Tobey Maguire and Kirsten Dunst kiss from the first Spider-Man movie by Sam Raimi.
We
And
mentioned already all of the references to John Hughes, the
Yes.
Breakfast Club style detention
Right.
scene that we get, and then the Ferris Bueller homage is really good.
and the Iron Spider suit, which looked incredible.
Oh, man, so
it
we're
looked
gonna see
so
that in Infinity
good.
War for sure.
I sure hope so. And
there's no
then
doubt.
talking about Donald Glover being Miles Morales' uncle.
Well, and the fact that Ned is basically
Ganke,
from-
right?
from
Yeah.
The Miles
Technically,
Morales
he's
story.
Ned Leeds, who is a classic Spider-Man character, but the way he acts, the way he looks, the role that he plays in this film is Ganke from Miles Morales, his friend. So it's going to be really weird to me when they do the Miles Morales film because surely they're going to introduce him as a character and people are going to go, this is really familiar. What's
Why
happening
did you
here?
bring Ned back?
It might just be the same character.
Maybe
She
so.
kinda-
Maybe,
Yeah.
We'll see
Pretty
what
great.
happens
It'd be
there.
really interesting. We find out that Zendaya is actually actually playing MJ. She gets called Michelle at one point in the movie, and then at the very end, my friends call me MJ. I thought you said you didn't have any friends. Well, now I do.
Yeah, which
She's
is really
so
interesting
good.
because throughout the production of this film, it was brought up at one point that Zendaya was going to play Mary Jane, and the internet freaked out and was super angry.
Well,
They're
the
like, she's
bad
wrong
parts of the
skin
internet.
color, has the wrong hair, and then she posted a picture of herself with red hair and was like, "I can have red hair, you guys. I don't know if you know about this thing called hair dye." And then she was like, "I don't know if you also know that the last person that played Mary Jane was not a redhead, and she dyed her hair."
Yes.
And so I thought that was really great. And I was like, "You get them, yeah, you get them."
Yeah,
but
you
then
tell
I
'em.
actually liked it that she wasn't going to be Mary Jane; that they were doing a bit of a change there, and I kind of wonder this could be going one of two ways. Either they wanted to change things up and call her Michelle for a while to subdue the internet fandom, and then throw it in last minute. She is going to be Mary Jane, or she is just Michelle, and they just threw in that quip of "I actually go by MJ." Completely unrelated to Mary Jane, just to make people mad. And this seems like a Marvel thing to do for me, like a Marvel Cinematic Universe thing to do. Oh, you guys were super angry about that? Well, we're going to make fun of you for it.
Yeah.
Yeah, get mad about this, and then next time we're going to introduce Gwen Stacy. It's going to be fine. You guys We'll have a different love interest.
And then the last thing here on this article is talking about how Vulture may come back. He knows who Spider-Man is. He knows who Peter Parker is. God,
Absolutely.
that was such a good freaking moment in that post-credit sequence.
I want to talk a little about that because I guess just talk about it completely out of order because my reading of that was not malevolent. My reading of that was that he was respecting the fact that Peter saved his life because
And
he
also
mentions
saved his
earlier
daughter's
how
life.
important that is. you
Yeah.
know? And they're kind of even after the
Sure.
exchange in the car, but then he is saved from the burning wreckage, and that's a big deal for this character. And thank God we have an interesting and complex and well-motivated antagonist in this
One of the
movie.
best
Right?
we've had in
Yeah.
the MCU in
Yeah,
years.
he's right up there with Loki, if not
Yeah.
surpassing.
Oh,
it,
yeah.
I think. It's really interesting to me. I think it's left ambiguous on purpose in that scene, and you could go again one of two ways with it. Either he is thinking that he's even with Spider-Man, that Spider-Man saved him, and he doesn't want to throw him under the bus like that, or he is so mad that Spider-Man botched his operation again, that he's now gone to prison for the things that he was doing, that everything in his life is basically ruined. And he's like, "No, that kid is mine. I'm going to kill him."
Going the Voldemort route, I see. The worst route to
We
go.
know that Sony is trying to put together the Sinister Six by going the Marvel method to create the Avengers. They're going to go villain movie, and then push out the Sinister Six movie.
Did they not listen to our podcast about Suicide Squad?
I don't know what they're doing. It's not going to work out well for them, though. I guarantee it. The whole fact that they're making a Venom movie without Spider-Man doesn't make any sense to me because Venom is not Venom without Spider-Man.
They're saying that now before the release of Spider-Man Homecoming, and it is entirely possible that with the enormous success of
Reshoots.
this film, they'll do something to tie it closer to
Sure.
Spider-Man
Because,
continuity.
The
They'd
origin
be dumb not to.
of Venom requires Spider-Man.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Or he's
Otherwise,
not
it's just the
mentioned.
symbiote, right?
And he's just connected to some dude, and there's nothing because the whole point of it is he connects to Spider-Man first, builds that bond, gets the spider powers, gets the spider look. That's how he takes on his form, and then hates Spider-Man for getting rid of him, and that's his whole drive.
So anyway, that was the whole list of Easter eggs there.
Well, they actually missed one. It was one of my favorite ones, which is the scene where Peter gets crushed by the ceiling collapsing on him, where Vulture.
Oh
collapses
my
everything
God,
on him.
I could not-
This is taken straight from the comics,
Yes.
from Amazing Spider-Man issues 31 through 33. It actually takes place in 33, where the Vulture does collapse a building on him, and there you have this whole page where Spider-Man thinks he's dying under this rubble. The cover is him like holding it up, and this water like pouring. It's one of the most iconic Spider-Man covers, and it was done so perfectly here.
Tom
Everything I
Holland
wanted.
was so astonishing in that scene. Like how afraid he was. He's like, he's crying, he's sobbing, he's like yelling for help. And just like, I started crying in the theater because I'm just an emotional wreck on any given Tuesday. But like, it was, I mean, Tom Holland is an excellent actor.
He
Like,
really, really
just
is,
really knocks it out of the park. And that was an amazing, brilliant scene.
It's
yeah.
really great too to combine that sequence with the reflection in the water, the half mask reflection, which is something that Steve Ditko did all the
So
time
iconic,
back in the
yeah.
60s to show the polarization within this character. It's
Right.
God, it's beautifully done. The quote that comes from Amazing Spider-Man 33 is this: "Anyone can win a fight when the odds are easy. It's when the going's tough, when there seems to be no chance. That's when it counts." And that's when Spider-Man summons his strength and lifts the wreckage off of himself so that he can
Starts
continue
by
to
saying,
fight.
come on, Peter, and then corrects himself. Come on, Spider-Man, and just, it's so good.
So good.
Also, this movie managed to have 4 Spider-Man villains in it, and do it well, which is something that I didn't think they could have ever done. And of course, not all those villains got their due. Of course, the first Shocker like dies like immediately almost.
Yep.
He shows up and he's already.
I thought that was the anti-gravity guy.
And so he had some time around, but just not as the Shocker. And then you get the Shocker replacement, just like you get in the comic books. He's there for that, and he looks like we're going to have more of him. He didn't die. We didn't lose him. He's possibly going to show up again. And I said 4, but there's actually 5 because there's Scorpion. Scorpion's there, and he has. When we see him in that final scene, he has something on his arm.
Something that looks an awful lot like a centipede device.
Yeah, and so to
guys.
me, that looks like that's going to be like something that's holding his arm together because of an injury he sustained. And maybe that's where he's going to put his stinger to be the Scorpion is like an arm thing rather than having a big tail and looking weird,
Which
in a
would look
weird,
very
stupid suit.
strange.
Yes.
Yeah.
But it did really look like the centipede / extremis that we saw back in the first season of
And
S.H.I.E.L.D.
then on top of that, the one that most people are probably going to miss is the guy making all the gadgets
Mason.
for Vulture is the Tinkerer, who was a big Spider-Man villain. So that's 5 Spider-Man villains that we got in this film done well.
Yeah.
And they all, like, of course, Vulture is the big one and the focus, and they did that well. It's something that Spider-Man 3 really dropped the ball with, is trying to put in all these villains and do that properly because they tried giving them all equal screen time, giving them all an equal amount of weight to carry.
Sure.
And it's not ever going to really
The
work
core
for
narrative of Spider-Man 3 as it was conceived is smart. It's a Sandman movie, which is great because then you've got a character
And Sandman's the best part of that
who's
movie.
not actually dissimilar to the Vulture in this movie. He's like a down on his luck, blue collar kind of guy who has been cursed with powers, finds himself a part of a larger world that he's poorly prepared for, and is just trying to make his way, just trying to protect his family. That's a really good story. And then you decide that it also has to simultaneously be a Venom movie. And that's a bad choice.
Yes.
That's a bad step.
I
I'm
never
not
saw
sure
Spider-Man 3.
We're ever going to get a good Venom movie on screen.
I don't know.
I just don't know that you can do that
A
character.
difficult thing to do, and I don't trust Sony to do it.
Yeah, no, I certainly don't either.
We also get at one point whenever we see Happy Hogan packing everything up and they're moving out of the Avengers Tower and heading to the place upstate, we get mention of plans for Cap's new shield.
The prototype of his new shield.
The prototype of his new shield, which
the Hulkbuster armor.
the Hulkbuster armor, and then Thor's magic belt,
McGingyard.
which
Yes.
I'm sorry, one more time.
McGingyard.
There you go.
Yes.
That was great. Way harder than Meow Meow.
It's really interesting because we haven't seen that. That is actually a part of Thor's mythic origin. It is a magic belt that he wears that doubles his strength. We haven't seen that in the MCU.
Unless
I wonder
it pops
if
up in
Thor knows
Ragnarok.
that Tony has that. Well, that's interesting. This whole sliding timeline thing.
Yes.
I feel like we could do a whole podcast just about the timeline of the MCU, trying to figure out how it all fits together.
We should do that while Vinton's on vacation.
I don't know. I think we need Vinton for that.
You know what? That sounds fair.
Well, we have something like that belt from Asgard and Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., the episode The Well with the
True.
Berserker
Oh,
staff
the
that doubles-
spears, yeah.
That's
something
not dissimilar.
Like that. So there's some connections there. On
Yeah.
that.
Yeah.
Good.
Well, and the line about Cap's shield is really, really interesting to me because this movie definitely comes after Civil War. 2 months after Civil
2
War?
months after Civil War.
Maybe in 2020, maybe last year. Who knows? Time is a construct. It doesn't really matter. But
wobbly.
Yeah. So we, Steve doesn't have his shield anymore. He dropped it in Russia after saving Bucky and after fighting Tony. And
My dad made that.
because my dad made that. That's mine. It's not yours. Bird costume. I didn't write it. God, I love Sharon. Anyway, but it makes me wonder if Tony and Steve are already communicating, doing the Secret Avengers thing, and if he's already building Cap's new shield for the coming Infinity War, because Steve doesn't have it. He went and broke everybody out of the raft and then went and chilled out in Wakanda for a while.
Tony has completely rebuilt the Avengers bunker, the command center. I don't
Yeah.
know what we're calling this now.
What do we
Avengers
call that?
HQ. That means that the Avengers name has not been completely
Besmirched.
destroyed
Yeah.
by the events of the Civil War. So I'm curious about, I think you're right. I think this is all purposeful.
Yes.
I think we're going to get a perspective on this, presumably in Black Panther. I can't wait for that movie. you
Yeah,
guys.
it's going
I
to be
can't
really
wait
good.
for it.
That movie's going to be amazing.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's going to be fantastic.
I really like the inclusion of Damage Control in this film.
Oh,
This
yeah.
is a group from the comics that does the same thing. They go up and pick up after superhero battles. And here it seems to be bankrolled at least partially by Tony Stark himself. And that's just a really fantastic thing for me. And we had talks for a while of a Damage Control TV show along the lines of Powerless from DC. But I don't think they ever did anything with that. Maybe those rumors came from what they were actually doing here in the film.
Could be.
the whole
Yeah.
time.
Yeah. It's certainly an interesting concept, particularly in the MCU, where though we go to great lengths to prevent civilian death
Sure.
in the MCU, there is just a ton of collateral damage. And someone needs to go and fix all of those.
Well, and it's
telegraph
interesting that
poles and
this
mailboxes
movie tells us that Tony has been doing that since the Battle of New York. He
Yeah.
did that immediately after the Battle of New York.
Yeah.
So this has been, I mean, This is another thing that Thunderbolt Ross just like totally ignored during the whole Sokovia Accords thing.
Which
It's like,
I believe.
Yeah, like you guys are causing so much problem. I'm also personally paying for the cleanup of all this. Shut up, Tony.
Yeah, I'm not sure how I feel about damage control in the context of the broader MCU, because why did Ultron not just go there? Why did he not just attack that place and take everything that was contained
Oh,
within
that's right. We also get an Ultron head in this movie. Not an Ultron, but the Ultron head.
Well,
Which
the
was,
Ultron
I think
head.
it might be an Ultron head.
Is it not
Oh,
the
you think so?
last?
Yeah, because they all had Ultron-looking heads.
Well, no, you know what? It may have been one of the previous Ultron bodies because he kept like hopping through bodies.
Right, that's true.
So it is one of It's not a sub Ultron head, which is a great name, by the way.
Sub-Ultron.
Absolutely fantastic for all of his little robots. But yeah, Peter just picks that up out of the backpack and is like, "Oh, that's bad," and then just chucks it. It brought me so much joy.
And we get little beats like the sub-Ultron arm cannon.
Yes.
It's been retrofitted
Yeah.
into a weapon. That's, this movie, the way that it plays with the rest of the MCU
Yeah.
makes me so happy.
Yeah.
Well, and it does it without having to. It doesn't take the time. It's like a sub Ultron. What is that? Oh, Ultron, the robot that Tony Stark built, and then it really like we just name drop these things and then keep moving forward. Trusting that the audience is going to pick it up, or that there's going to be a list on the internet listing all the Easter eggs and like
right.
what they all mean. And I love that. I really do love that. We are like trusting that Peter is in this world and belongs in this world, and all of these characters are a part of this bigger world, and it all just ties together so beautifully. It's really wonderfully done.
Yeah, one of the Easter eggs that we haven't mentioned yet, I don't think, is that Betty Brant is there at the school. She is the school newscaster on the news videos when they're like walking through the halls.
Oh,
and
man,
such.
school
And
news
it's
shows.
done so like cheesy. I love it. They just look at
Yeah.
them and they're like, "Thanks, Spider-Man."
It's
It's
brilliant.
in Comic Sans in the middle of the twins.
Yeah.
It's
It
open, like,
looks
Betty Brant in the
like
comics.
garbage. It's super awkward. It's pitch perfect.
Yes,
category.
yeah.
Betty Brant in the comics is J. Jonah Jameson's secretary, later to become a reporter at the Daily Bugle. Once, of course, women could do that thing in comics.
Right.
Because the 60s, guys.
Yeah.
So she is a big character in Spider-Man comics, later a love interest even. So it was kind of cool to get that nod to her, even though there wasn't really any connection with anything else. She was just there in the background.
Yeah,
It's cool
I
to
think
see.
Betty's most well known from her appearances in the Sam Raimi trilogy because she
Right.
is the secretary to J. Jonah Jameson and is, welcoming to Peter in a way that J. Jonah Jameson is not. You guys, I am so excited for what this trilogy is going to do with Jameson. Because
Really?
they have to include him at some point.
Yeah.
And I can't wait. I want that very, very badly at this point.
Yeah.
Weird that Peter didn't pick up a camera in this entire movie.
I was actually
a little
just
bit.
thinking that when you guys were talking about, J. Jonah Jameson and the Daily Bugle and all that, I don't know if that's going to be a part necessarily of the MCU because, Peter is basically like first pick draft for the Avengers.
Yeah, but he turns that down. At the
Yeah, but
end.
even when I guess that's true. God, that scene is so freaking good. This is a test, right? Yeah, there's no one behind that door. It's totally fine. Where's the kid?
Well, let's talk about that for a little bit because I really like that second beat there because I picked up on it the second time that when he says no, the reason he says no, he says he wants to help out the little guy. He doesn't want to be the big hero anymore. And that seems to be taken straight from the Vulture's speech that he gives Spider-Man when he's explaining himself and why he does what he does and saying that, I'm not like Tony Stark. I'm just a normal working guy. You can understand that. And everything is given to them and everything is taken from me. And I have to step up and do something because I'm just a little guy that gets stepped on when there's giants like that walking around.
Yeah.
Vulture, okay, I know that he was like stealing alien tech and stuff like that, but as far as we know, he didn't kill anybody until he accidentally killed Shocker.
Yeah, but let's
It's
be honest.
basically a victimless crime.
It's not though.
'Cause
He
he's
knows
selling the
who
weapons.
He's selling those weapons. To.
Okay.
But so did Tony Stark.
Yeah, no,
so
that's
did Tony Stark. Well, no, that was the thing is that Tony didn't know, right? He didn't know where they were all ending up.
He didn't necessarily know.
Well,
Of course,
no.
it was Obadiah Stane who did
Yeah.
some of that. But Tony knew that he was a weaponeer and like created
Right.
wars and
He
didn't
at
really
least,
care too much.
he stopped that at least.
and turn into a superhero.
And turn
which,
into
who
a
knows,
superhero.
The Vulture might too.
Yeah, who knows?
Oh man.
What did you guys think of the visual design for the Vulture's
I thought it
suit?
was awesome.
On
Really?
point. So
Yeah.
good. I liked
Really?
it.
Okay,
I
great,
really like the
great.
jacket that gave the fur lining there. Where
Yes.
the Vulture usually has that
Yeah.
on his costume. Here you have it as a military thing. It's a green military
Yeah.
jacket.
Yeah.
He's got the big metal wings, of course, updating that.
I
And
thought
it's so good.
I thought it was badass. I thought that all of the tech looks amazing
Right.
in this movie. And I don't know if it's just, we get better and better at visual effects every year, but it's so interesting whenever we're doing these movies and it's like, okay, well, we're going to have Captain America, but we can't have him dressed like he was in the 1940 comics because it's just going to be absolutely ridiculous. So like we're making things more realistic. But yeah, no, I loved it. I loved his whole aesthetic.
And
I was
claw
into
feet,
it.
I really like the claw
The claw
feet.
feet
Yeah,
is
the claw feet
genius.
is
Like
great.
the aviator helmet with the breathing mask.
Yes,
Such
yeah,
a
and it's
great
got like
idea.
his
So
HUD
well
in there
thought
as
out.
well. Yeah, no, it
And
was
then the
so
wings,
good.
I thought they were going to be like real stiff, but he actually had like robotic control of those wings. He could move things.
Yeah,
he
the
could cut
articulation of
things
the
with them,
wings
pick
is
things up.
beautiful. Yeah, I think the only thing that bothers me a little bit about the Vulture's look is these jet propeller engines, which apparently give him sufficient lift. We've kind of solved this problem in the MCU. You guys, we have like
With
4 different
propulsors.
technologies, in fact, that can solve this problem. And I
Yeah.
kind of wish that we'd gone for something. If it were more, magic high tech,
Yeah.
then I could have believed it more readily.
Well, he had to build it in a warehouse, though. Is the thing he
That's
doesn't
true.
have all of Stark's money.
But we could have justified that with, hey,
tech.
here's a reclaimed Iron Man suit from
Sure.
the battle at the end
Well,
of
and
Iron
he
Man
even
3,
finds an Iron Man helmet, and he's just like, "F that," and tosses it aside.
which is an odd beat.
No,
actually.
I'm into it. No, he really hates Tony Stark. He
Yeah,
wants
he does.
nothing to do with
Well,
that man.
but he
Tony
definitely
Stank.
wants
Tony
that
Stank.
crate full of arc reactors, though.
That's true. Well, the arc reactor is more useful than the Iron Man
Yeah,
helmet.
that's probably fair.
Yeah, absolutely.
Though one of those might have Friday in it. We don't know for
Maybe
sure.
so. Hmm.
I really liked the way this movie came to a climax, the way that it wasn't a world-ending travesty, a conflict like
Yeah.
we get so often. There was no big blue laser in the
Thank
sky.
God.
Yeah.
It was just this battle between the Vulture and Spider-Man, and
That
bringing
whole
down the
plane fight, I was,
was
so
great.
stressed out. First of all, it was hard to follow because we're flashing around a whole lot. The plane itself is flashing a lot. There's fire, there's jet engines. I thought that Peter Parker was going to be sucked into a jet engine, and that was how we were going
Yeah.
to handle this whole thing. I think that's my least favorite sequence, just because because everything else had been so easy to kind of follow along with,
Yeah,
all of the choreography and everything. This one was the first time where I really noticed, oh, this is the equivalent of our giant action piece. I mean, this is our action piece, and it's
really
it's
is.
hard to follow.
There are moments in it that I really enjoy, but I don't know why we had to make the plane invisible. You
Yeah, why
guys.
did we do that?
makes it just so much harder to visually parse what is happening in this
Yes.
sequence. Though it's
Although-
almost worth it for the joke when Spider-Man crawls
Yes,
over the camera
exactly.
and we see
And then we
the
see the
image of him on
giant
the top of the
Spider-Man,
plane.
yeah.
That's a good gag. I
Yes.
like that one a
I
lot.
liked it a lot. And then when the ship crashes on the beach, my first thought is, oh my God, they're killing people. And I was like, oh no, Chris Christie closed all the beaches. It's fine.
I don't think Coney Island is in Jersey,
No,
but
joke place. This is 2020. That governor, whoever's in charge of there, close
that's
the
true.
beaches.
That's true. We were all collectively racking our brains after watching the movie when we were sitting in the diner. I don't think that Peter Parker kills anyone in this
I don't
film,
think-
not even accidentally.
Yeah, no. As far as I know, the only person in this movie who dies is Shocker 1.0.
Yeah, Spider-Man's really destructive in this, and I like that. I like that he's messing up. I like that it's messy for him, and he's trying to do the right thing, but he's finding himself messing up left and right. This is a very Spider-Man-like thing to do. I'm trying to do the right thing, but things keep falling apart around me, and people keep getting hurt around me. But I don't think anyone did. At least they didn't show us. They could always come back and then do something where they go, "Oh, I was on that ferry and my wife fell in." Or,
I am
don't
Baron
know.
Zemo Jr.
Baron Zemo Jr. I don't know.
Barry, you just go to my high school.
One of
Barry Zemo.
One of the things that I found interesting that I heard just before the movie was that they weren't going to include spider sense. And that's something I didn't realize in the Civil War movie either. There's no spider
That's
sense.
Crazy that it
that's
hadn't occurred to me that that's not
weird
in
to
this
me
film.
because spider sense is such an essential thing to who Spider-Man is.
Wow.
Maybe it's just Karen. Maybe
And-
Karen is the spider
Well,
sense.
that could be, and the director specifically said that he felt like it had just been overplayed in recent films. It was such a
Oh.
focus in so many of the Spider-Man films. He just didn't want to focus on it. He didn't say it wasn't going to be there. He didn't say that it wasn't even there now, but he didn't want to focus on it. And there are scenes where you go, well, he can't have a spider sense because that wouldn't have happened or this wouldn't have happened.
Sure.
But there are other scenes like where he is getting shot at or someone's swinging at him like fist wise, and he's just dodging left and right. Where you feel like maybe he does, and maybe he just doesn't know what it is or doesn't.
he has like
know
a
how to use it.
latent spider sense.
So I do hope they bring it up at some point because the spider sense is a really cool thing. I really do like it. It does bring a little bit more of a anxious feeling when you're watching a fight scene and Spider-Man doesn't have spider sense.
Yeah.
He doesn't know when the hits are coming. He doesn't know that Vulture's coming back around for a hit from behind.
Sure.
But there's some interesting things that can also be done with the spider sense.
Yeah, no, sure. So let's move really quickly through the structure of this film, and this is going to be a gloss because Vinton's seen the movie twice. We have each seen the movie once.
Yes.
We'll probably return to it, I think, when it comes out on Blu-ray. There's
I
a
think
live
so.
tweet in our future, let me tell you.
Oh, yeah, there
We
is.
begin with Adrian Toomes, with the Vulture, with his wrecking crew, if you like, scavenging Chitauri technology in the wake of the Battle of New York. He is then told that this is not a part of his future anymore, and he takes his toys and goes home and then begins building weapons. We cut forward 8 years. The the famous controversial 8 years. And we get Peter Parker going back to school after his involvement in Civil War. We get this great, handycam sequence of Civil War, which I just adore.
And of him going to Berlin and getting his suit for the first time, which is
a lot of Jon
beautiful.
Favreau in this movie, which I'm really into, by the way. We haven't
Right.
seen this much happy since, I don't even know, Iron Man 2.
And I think there's some character development here because at the beginning, he definitely does not like Peter Parker. He doesn't like having to show this kid around and be in charge.
Right.
Of this kid. By the end of it, you can tell he likes Peter a lot, and he's actually wanting to be around when Stark is wanting to talk to Peter. You're like, actually, I want to be involved in this because I feel really close to him. I feel like I'm a part of this now.
Which is really strong. And then we get that jarring 2-month transition where he hasn't received the call. And there are just so many beautiful character moments as he's texting Happy. Just, it's Peter Parker. It's so good. The voice of Peter throughout this movie is
so
just
strong.
perfect. It just doesn't slip for me at all. We then really begin our action when he stumbles upon the Avengers robbing the ATM using these high-tech weapons that they presumably got from the Vulture. And that really kickstarts the whole proceedings. What did you guys make of that Avengers fight? The quote-unquote Avengers fight, the faux Avengers. What did you make of that fight in the ATM lobby? Did that work for you? Because we saw a lot of that in the trailer, but most of the trailer didn't make it into the actual movie. Most of those lines were recut.
Changed. It seemed like there was a lot of ADR,
Which I'm super into. Yeah.
So did that work for you?
It absolutely worked for me. I thought that it was great. It was really excellent. I love whenever Peter first runs in and he doesn't even run in. He just like walks into the bank and like none of them see him. And so then he's like trying to figure out how am I going to stand? Like, I got to do my cool guy. But like, he just like Peter Parker, my sweet, soft spider son, whom I love with all my heart and soul. And no one hurt him or I will murder them. It worked for me very well. This whole movie worked for me.
Yeah, it completely worked for me. I really liked when he had knocked down all the other heroes and it was just Thor and Hulk saying, he's like, hey, glad to finally meet you guys. It was such a great beat there. And then, of course, him having already built the relationship with the store owner across the street, that when the gun shoots off and blows up that store and he has to go save him. And
Mr.
saves the
Delmar.
cat, he dives right in. The way he dives in looks so cool to me. Yeah. But he's so concerned. He's like, I love this guy. This guy's like part of my family. I'm here every day to get a sandwich. I talk to him. I joke around with this guy. This is not cool that this just happened.
And the cat. He saves the cat.
Murph, the cat.
Just fantastic. So while Peter's super heroics are unfolding, we're also getting the storyline at school where he's crazy in love with Liz. He's hanging out with his best friend Ned, who immediately finds out that he is Spider-Man. And I love how quickly we dispense with that. That's just very cute, and was already a beat that was kind of foreshadowed in the story when we're talking about building the Lego Death Star. I've watched a couple videos, by the way, on YouTube of people building the Lego Death Star. It's pretty amazing. It's pretty good. The Lego Death Star is pretty serious. Yeah, like 3,500 pieces. It's kind of cool. Anyway. This is not our Lego fan cast.
Can we just actually do a video of us building that thing and make it a tax write-off for buying it?
Definitely.
Because isn't that thing like $300?
I have no idea.
I think it
how
might
much
be
it
more
is,
than that.
Okay, you guys keep talking. I'll be right back.
They're usually about 10 cents a piece. So
we get the party at Liz's place where Peter shows up and has to immediately make his excuses and leave. Firstly, just to transform into a Spider-Man costume to crash the party and impress the hell out of everyone. But then, of course, he's distracted by heroics.
Yeah. And immediately, as soon as he pulls up to the house, I'm like, I'm thrown out of this movie a little bit because there's no way this girl and her family affords this house. What is going on here? And then the movie explains that to me by having Toombs open the door later.
I almost had a freaking heart attack in that movie theater. Like I inhaled so much that it held my breath for the next 5 minutes. I was so blown away and I had no idea. And it was amazing and so perfectly done. Like, good job, movie.
And done with such self-control, so much restraint. Right. We never allow the Vulture to slip into malice here. He just is that creepy, and his relationship with Peter is that complicated. And I love the sequence where he's figuring out that Peter is Spider-Man in the back of the car. Gotta stop saying Spider-Man, you guys. When he's figuring out Peter's superheroic identity in the car, that is such a great... It's so
I was
controlled and studied,
terrified,
and focused, and the way that the cinematography just starts bleeding out. We're no longer shooting the sequence like it's the rest of the movie. Now we're shooting it like it's some incredibly stylized noir movie. Right. It gets really intense and graphic.
And it does that thing where we're trying to keep it really tense, but we're throwing in humor.
Yep.
But it doesn't ever lose the tension because of the humor. And that's exactly what you want from a Spider-Man comic. It's exactly what you want from a Spider-Man movie, that he can quip and you don't lose the tension. On the ferry holding it together, he can quip, but you don't lose the tension. Yeah. Here, when the Vulture confronts him and then he walks into school and then Zendaya flips him off, but you don't lose builds the tension.
Absolutely right. It's perfect. It's perfect.
FYI, the Lego Star Wars Death Star is $499.99.
Patreon.com/Common Room Radio.
And that's
if
not
you'd
even,
like to
there's
see us
another
build
one
that.
that's $7,100.
Is that made of gold? Actual
No, I think
gold?
it might be the very first Lego Death Star.
Is it an actual working Death Star?
Doesn't look like it.
Because I will need it to keep the outer planets in line.
Not for long, not after we blow them up. Then they're super out of line. Hey-o.
So Peter slips away from the party, and we get our first interaction with Donald Glover, who
Yep.
is just fantastic throughout, playing Aaron Davis.
I just
the
need to
Prowler.
like hold somebody up. I don't want to like blast him back in time.
And I really like that you get Spider-Man not having anything to web sling on. He's having to run across a golf
Yeah,
course. And he's
that's
like, this
really funny.
sucks.
Yeah. There have been jokes kicking around the Spider-Man comics for the longest time about Spider-Man in suburbia. This is why he lives in the city, because
Yes.
web swinging is easy. I love that we just integrate it so beautifully. And the movie doesn't have to call it out. We don't have to like really pay reference to that, to how
Yeah.
clever we're being. We just get to be clever, which
Yeah.
is great.
And Donald Glover's character here, one of the reasons why he later will give Spider-Man information is because Spider-Man steps in when he has a gun pointed at him and says, if you want to shoot somebody, shoot me. He technically saves that guy's life.
He
Yeah.
absolutely does. Yeah, which is great. Peter is then tracked to the school by the second Shocker, who's following the power cord, the glowy thing. Then we get the switch to Maryland. We get the switch to Washington, D.C.
Yes. Right.
Peter rejoins the academic decathlon, I suppose that's what it's called. Is that
the
a
quiz
real
team.
thing?
No, it really absolutely is. This is-
Academic decathlon specifically is a real thing.
probably so. That's
What are
probably
the 10 events in an academic decathlon?
no. It's 10 subjects. I bet.
Oh, probably is, isn't it?
Yeah.
I want it to be 10 events.
Well, there's history smarts, math smarts, hero smarts, SSR smarts / shield, poetry, English lit, I don't know, ancient lit,
The wit and wisdom of Nick Fury.
the wit and wisdom of Nick Fury, Red Room, and Black Widow's dating profiles.
Okay, that covers it.
Nailed it.
I've checked, and you're absolutely right. Congratulations.
thank you.
You win academic decathlon.
I am the national champion of academic decathlon.
That is false. What did I tell you
Ding!
about using the bell for
Flash is wrong.
what did I tell you about using the bell for jokes?
Oh my God! Can we talk about Martin Starr? Can we talk about how spectacular Martin Starr
Martin
is in
Starr
this
is
movie
really
as the
great.
teacher?
Is he even named in the film?
I don't think that he is, but this is his second appearance in a Marvel movie.
Really?
Because he's a computer tech back in Hulk.
Right.
What?
Yeah, it's like a 2-second shot.
Wait, the Hulk that counts?
Yes, the Hulk
Okay.
that counts. He's in that movie. So I just really want to
One
believe that.
smash.
that-
Two smash. Sorry, I just couldn't.
Oh my god, I just got it.
I want to believe that computer tech just like decided that enough was enough. I'm going to leave working for Shield or Thunderbolt Ross or whatever, and now just go and
Yeah.
get my teaching diploma.
That scene where he goes, I couldn't lose a student on a field trip. Not again.
Which is played as a joke, and yes, we all laughed, but then afterwards you're like, oh wait.
And he's
Wait,
just
did that
staring at the
happen?
camera so serious.
Like with his
Oh,
eyes
no.
slowly misting over. Like that had to have been an ad lib, right? And they just loved it so
I
much they
completely
kept
believe
it
that
in.
from Martin
yeah.
Starr.
Yeah.
Yes. This carries us into our first major set piece of the movie, which is the Washington Monument set piece. What did you guys make of this, Sarah? As I said earlier, you were incredibly tense throughout the entire
I
thing.
was okay. Well, here's the thing: is that I have seen superhero movies before, and I have also seen Spider-Man movies before, and I was certain that someone was going to die in that elevator shaft,
Yeah.
and I did, or all of them. I was like, oh god, are we gonna kill every single one of these kids? And this is how we motivate Peter to like go do the thing. And I was so like I'm like on the edge of my seat, just staring and like praying to Stan Lee to please God, please don't let these children die on this trip.
Yeah.
For me, I might have questioned it. I might have wondered why they were doing this, why they were going here. But Zendaya's 2 lines actually save it for me and just really made me not even care or think about it when they're first getting on the bus. And she's like, am I going to have time to put some light protesting in at some of the embassies? And then later when she's like, I didn't really feel like looking at something that was created by slaves. And then he's like, I don't think it was actually. And then he turns to the guard and the guard's like, oh, okay, well then.
I would, God, you know what I wish? I wish that we could watch this entire movie from the viewpoint of Michelle.
Yes.
Like, I just want to see, like, Michelle's weird couple of weeks where that Peter Parker kid was just being a total rando.
I'm not sure he was that different before he got
I'm
started.
not obsessed.
not.
I'm just observant.
That's very
Oh,
good.
gosh, she's so good.
This entire sequence to me just demonstrates why Spider-Man is the hero that he is, because he keeps failing, but he fails upwards.
Yes.
Every time he fails, he gets a step closer to saving everyone. And
Yeah.
that is absolutely worth it. The leaping from the top of the monument, which again is a sequence that we saw in the trailer and is interestingly subverted
Yeah.
in the movie itself, where he uses this arc around the helicopter thanks to his webs to smash through the tiny, very tiny window.
Yes.
Peter, you're really good at what you do, because
Yep.
it could have broken real bad for you there, buddy. He manages to save everyone, but it is through this succession of calamities. He tries and fails and tries and fails and just keeps trying.
And he doesn't give
until
up.
it works.
He's a real hero.
Even when he plummets down into the mist at the bottom of the mine shaft and Flash calls out after him, "Do you know Peter Parker?"
God, Flash, you're the worst.
Well done.
It's just, I love it so much.
We had mentioned before when we were talking just after the movie about wondering why they had gone to the sea, and I think it occurred to me that he needed a reason to get this tracker out. He had to go find those guys. But
Yeah,
that didn't have to happen in DC, but he had to leave New York to have the problem with the tracker, to really find out about the suit, to unlock all the suit's potential.
To get rid of the training wheels protocol.
Yeah,
Exactly.
and then the scene, of course, where he's locked in the warehouse is actually a really fun scene where he gets to train some, being locked in there for a little while. It was just a really fun scene to see him grow into those powers a little bit there.
Right. And I think that, and it really builds up like the tension that he ends up having with Tony, where Tony is like, no, Tony is thinking I've done everything I can to protect this kid and make sure that this kid is going to be safe and going to be fine. And then come to find out, Peter's going to do what Peter wants to do.
Yeah.
And like kind of, go and do his own thing. And I'm certain that Tony sees more than a little bit of himself in Peter Parker.
Which I think is why he's so concerned.
Yes,
I
and
think
it's
that's exactly it.
Perfect. It is a perfect parallel. I love what we have done with these two characters and their relationship.
Yeah, me too. Back in New York, we basically move into the Staten Island ferry sequence. Now that Peter is completely empowered, now that he has something approaching mastery of his suit,
Yes.
we're going to challenge his ability to save everyone, and then we're going to bring in the big boys to save him. What do you guys make of the sequence on the ferry itself? Is Tony Stark right to chastise Peter for what he has done here?
No, of course not.
Just leave this alone? Is that sufficient?
I think it is one of those like typical father things. If he's in a father role, this is actually the way this should be played. And he even says himself, he says, "I sound like my father."
Yeah.
And this is what happens with a dad. Usually, you're looking at your son, and you're only seeing half of what's going on. You're not seeing them trying. You're just seeing them messing up.
Yeah,
and
that's a good point.
Spider-Man's actually really trying here, but Tony Stark actually had everything in place. He called the FBI. He was listening to Spider-Man, but where he dropped the ball is he never told Spider-Man he was listening.
Yeah,
he
he
should
never
have.
told Spider-Man that he was doing anything, and then he acted like it was Spider-Man's fault, but it was him that wasn't listening.
There's so much of that through the course of the movie where Peter is feeling ignored and feeling overlooked and feeling undervalued. But then there are all these little hints in Tony Stark's dialogue that he's actually paying very close attention.
Right.
And he lies and says that he's in band. And Tony says, that's weird. Happy told me you quit band 6 weeks ago.
Yeah, and he mentions the old lady that he helped out,
Yeah.
even though that call was to Happy, not
Exactly.
to him.
So not only is Happy listening to everything that Peter is saying,
Yes.
he's reporting it all to Tony, who
Or
is paying
perhaps
enough
Happy
attention.
isn't listening at all, and
That could
Tony's
be
just
too.
getting
Yeah,
those
yeah.
straight from him because Tony can do whatever he wants with
Right.
technology.
Tony
Hey,
is-
what do you guys think that Tony was doing in like Bangladesh or wherever he was?
I like to think that he is seeking some kind of spiritual calm. I want to be.
I would think
Clearly
so.
wasn't. It was some kind of ambassadorial party. I
Sure.
think. He's just hanging out. He's just glad handing. This is all part of his campaign to make the Avengers the world's police. He just
Sure,
wants
yeah.
the, international support.
I just wasn't sure if there was any sort of like superhero thing that like came from maybe that part of the world that either of you two knew about
There are a
immediately.
few,
Yeah.
but nothing springs to
Yeah.
mind. Certainly in the MCU, the thing that's closest of late is the only other MCU movie that has been scored by Michael Giacchino, which is Doctor Strange.
Right.
Interesting that he should be there around this time. And now I'm wondering about Doctor Strange's place in the timeline.
Yeah, when does that happen? Because he talks to Thor at
He
the end of
talks
that
to Thor
movie,
at the end
right?
of that, which is clearly leading into Ragnarok.
Yeah, so
But we
prior
don't know when Ragnarok
but it
begins.
That may be after the events of Ragnarok because there are some shots for Ragnarok where we see Thor and Loki like walking around downtown wherever.
Yeah.
So
I think that's probably a prologue to Ragnarok, but Ragnarok could be happening. Ragnarok could be over before, or at least the parts of Ragnarok that touch Earth could be over before the Civil War. So we
Sure.
have no idea.
Yeah.
I
we
think
have-
these timelines are definitely going to cement more once we get to Infinity War, once we have Ragnarok and Black
Once
Panther
everything is,
out,
like, put
and then
together,
Infinity
yeah.
War starts happening. It's really going to, I think, tie everything in. You're going to go, oh, this is how these slot together now.
Someone at Marvel has realized, hey, we should be paying more attention to this.
Yes.
Okay, let's start fixing it now, and then it'll make more sense in 4 movies' time. Do you guys like the Staten Island ferry sequence?
I
the,
do,
the
quite a
cleaving
bit.
of the ferry in twain. Does that work?
Yeah,
for you?
I really love it when he is trying his best and he's still adapting, but he's learned a few
Yeah.
things. And so he's like, find the structural points and he's
Yeah.
trying to tie them all together. He's trying his best. That guy yells out, Spider-Man, yeah. And then the suit goes, great job, Peter. You're 98% successful, which of course means it's not going to work. Even though that is like, that's an A+.
Yeah.
But it's not good enough because it's still going to fall apart. And he's like, what? No. And then, of course, Iron Man comes in to save the day. And it's just a great scene there where, of course, Iron Man he has like the technology to push the shit back together.
Sure,
weld it
yeah.
back shut. And Spider-Man's like, Mr. Stark, can I do anything? He's like, no, you've done enough.
Yeah.
Their entire conversation there is so good. Like, I love whenever Peter is like, if you really cared, you'd actually be here. And then Tony actually pops out of the
That's
suit.
falling back
Out
to
of
when
the
he wasn't in the suit
Yes.
earlier.
Oh gosh, and it was so good. Like, I think I gasped aloud because I was like, "Oh no, oh god, Dad is so angry. We are in so much trouble." And just,
He steps out of that suit with such force and power. Too.
Yes.
Just, like, walks right up into his face.
Yeah.
Yeah,
It's real good.
I literally cannot talk enough about how much I adore the relationship between Peter and Tony, and just, God, it's so good. It's so good. I love it so much. It's amazing.
And this is another bullet dodge because I was fearful. We'd seen this scene in the trailers, and I was fearful of Peter suspended between the two halves of the ferry and the Christ imagery associated with that. But it's not that. That is not the purpose of the scene at all. He isn't sacrificing himself to save everyone on the ferry.
Right.
He's just trying. He's still trying. And even when Iron Man comes in and saves the day, Peter's still trying.
Yeah.
He still wants to help.
He will
It's a
not
really
just like
great
take
sequence.
a breather. Like he won't stop until the job is done.
It's just fantastic.
It's a shame that like Cap isn't around to raise this kid, because I feel like Steve would really appreciate a lot of these characteristics.
So then we take away the suit, which is a really nice beat, and Peter returns home wearing his New York tourist t-shirt,
Yes.
I guess, which I kind of like too. And that gives us our opportunity to move back into the high school story where we reconnect with Liz. Peter asks her to the homecoming dance. It's all very
We
beautiful.
find out her dad is the Vulture.
That's where things get a little more complicated,
Yup.
admittedly. And I love the moment when Peter goes to the dance. We talked a little briefly about his scenes
Yes.
with the Vulture. Those are all great. But when he walks into the dance and he is clearly conflicted, he is caught in this moment, caught between these two worlds.
He's having every adult around him who knows who he is basically saying, stay out of this. Like, stop, quit, stop what you're doing. Just go be a kid and don't even worry about it. But Peter could do this all day.
Oh, that hurt my heart. That really
good.
hurt my heart right then. So Peter decides that he is, in fact, going to take the fight to the Vulture, that he's going to figure out what is going on. He gets his old costume back, which I just love. I love how ratty and run down it is. It's
Yes.
just really good. And I'm reminded of the beat that we have in Civil War when he's introduced about the goggles and about how ever since he was bitten by the spider, ever since he got his powers, his senses have been super heightened. And now he has to filter those out so that he can fight effectively. That's one of
Right.
the things that the mask does, one of the things that the goggles do. Did it bother you at all that there's no indication of that in this movie whatsoever? That
Nope,
he
'cause
doesn't
I already
seem to
knew
be super sensitive
Yeah, no.
when he's not wearing the mask?
Yeah, no.
Nope, didn't
it
bug
didn't
me.
really bother me because I kind of felt like he can still function that way.
Yeah.
It just, if he's in a high stakes battle, he's going to have some problems and needs
Sure.
to be able to
Like when his
function.
adrenaline is running and
Right.
already he's more aware
And
anyway.
there's so much going on.
Yeah.
So Peter confronts Toombs. He confronts the Vulture while Happy is loading the last of the supplies from the last of Tony Stark's objet d'art from Stark Tower to move upstate. We then get the fight in the warehouse when the Vulture's wingsuit collapses the building, and Peter has to dig deep,
my
you
gosh.
guys,
Oh,
has to
it's such a
lift
good
himself
scene.
out. And I love this because this is the counterpoint to the Staten Island ferry scene. Peter here isn't sacrificing to save everyone else. He's digging deep to save himself.
Yeah.
And that's really powerful for this character, for this archetype, because his heroism in the defense of others is never in question.
Right.
We never have to challenge that. We never have to tempt him to turn his back and forget about the villain. Even when he walks into the homecoming dance, he's already made up his mind. He knows
Yeah.
what he has to do. He's caught in this conflict because he knows it's going to be hard. He's giving up something incredibly important to him. But this isn't a difficult choice for him.
Right.
But this is the moment where he really has to believe in himself. And yeah, I got choked up watching that. I really
Yeah,
did.
me too. Yep. No, I just straight up cried. There was no choking up. I just was weeping.
Beautiful.
Yes.
Yeah, yeah. And then airplane battle. You
And then airplane battle. Yeah.
I really like the infiltration of the airplane. I really
Yes.
like how clever the Vulture is. I like how smart the Vulture is throughout, actually. I love that it's this absolutely scavenger mentality, that he's sneak attacking these convoys, taking things without being noticed.
Yeah.
things that will, presumably show up on a spreadsheet somewhere, but won't actually physically be missed.
Right.
And I really like that this isn't the Vulture's idea here. This has been the Tinkerer's idea. The Vulture's saying, no, this is too big of a job. This is too risky. This is not something we do. But then he's come down to his last resort and he needs more stuff because he has jobs coming up. He has sales coming up that he can't meet the quotas of because he doesn't have the items anymore because Spider-Man keeps putting a stop to him. He's like, finally, like, all right, you've been pushing this idea. Let's go ahead and try it because I'm out of options.
Yeah. The high altitude vacuum idea is really, really good. And I love the little cubes that you use to make the matter permeable to phase shift the matter.
Right. And
that's
it's
so
perfectly
great.
introduced because if he had just like flown down and thrown it on that truck, you would have been like, what the hell is that? Where'd that come from? But you saw the Tinkerer when he was making things, threw it up on the side of the fridge, reached in and grabbed like a drink or something and pulled it back out. And you're like, oh, okay, that's funny. And then they use it. It's like they really do a good job of setting things up in this
They really,
film.
really do,
And
yeah.
small
Absolutely
things
do.
that you don't even notice, like the fact that the plane doesn't have any pilots. Well, we learned that Tony Stark's planes don't have pilots when Peter Parker first got on his jet to fly the Civil War, and he went, hey, there's no pilots in the plane. That's cool.
And even when I'm complaining about the plane being invisible, which I do think is unnecessary, that's helicarrier technology. That's
It
Quinjet
absolutely is,
technology. We've seen that before many times now. So all of it works together. And every one of those little details makes us feel more connected to the MCU.
Yes.
Every one of those details makes it feel as though this is a real world with real
It's going to
complexity
make
and
literally
depth.
every person on the planet, except for Sony, forget that this is a Sony film.
Which I think at this point is probably what Sony wants. Thank you. We will take that paycheck, please and thank you. Yes. Then we have the crash on the beach near Coney Island, which is beautifully staged, beautifully done. Peter turning the aileron there to turn the plane. That's so good.
Yeah.
It's so
It's
smart.
straight out of a recent Batman comic, actually.
Oh,
Batman did
really?
The same
Oh,
thing on the
really?
plane, by Tom King, where there's a plane crashing through Gotham and Batman has to jump on it and use his tools to pull the wing up and so it'll go sideways and just go right between two buildings rather than hitting either of
Oh,
them.
man. We sure like Tom King.
Yeah,
We
he's
sure
pretty
do.
fantastic.
We sure do. So the plane crashes. There is a brief fight between Peter, who is now in bad condition, and the Vulture.
Yeah, and the moment where the Vulture is punching him, you really get this picture of this is an adult punching a 15-year-old.
Yes.
This is an
Like-
adult in a robot suit punching a
Like,
15-year-old boy.
He looks helpless there, laying there,
Yeah.
just getting punched in the face over and over again. He's just out. He's trying his best to get up, and he just keeps falling.
Yeah, and the claws on his chest. The whole
Yeah,
thing is
the
very
whole
visceral,
thing.
very, very
And
real.
he still chooses to go and save Toombs because
I'm trying to save you.
your
Which is-
suit's gonna explode. Stop. Yeah.
so great. Yeah, running through the fire to get
Yes.
to Toombs is just
And then like burning his
magnificent.
hands on the metal, but then going for it anyway. Like,
'Cause he
God,
does it anyway.
Peter!
Peter Parker fails upwards. This is what I'm saying. So all of this plays out as we've discussed. Peter goes back to school and we learn that Liz is moving away because her father doesn't want her in town. Hey, Liz survived this movie, you guys.
Hey, great! I was
Great
sure
job,
she was
Liz.
gonna
She got
die.
shipped off, and then she had a villain for her dad, but she survived.
But
made
lives
it through.
lives to tell the
Unexpected,
tale.
She's
unexpected.
going to have a happier life in Oregon. It's going to be just fine.
It's real pretty
Does
there.
it bother you guys that Peter Parker shows up without a scratch at school after being so bloody and have so many marks on his
Time
face?
has passed because it's been long enough that Toombs has been not just arrested but also arraigned.
That's
we know
true.
that there's going to be a
And
trial.
I also, in my mind, like I came up with a reason for it, is that Peter's been in a few scuffles. He's probably fought a couple of bank robbers or whatever at this point. He probably has a makeup set. And he puts
probably
makeup
I
on
also
because
just
he needs to cover
assumed that
stuff.
he like all superheroes are enhanced individuals, just heals quicker than
He
everybody
probably
else.
does. He probably does.
that I
feel
think might
quicker.
actually be canonical
Yeah.
in the MCU. too.
But yeah, surely he, especially after his fight with Captain America, having to explain the black guy, he's like, you know what? I'm going to buy some makeup and make sure that I don't look all beat up all the time.
Right.
So from there we get the beat with Happy in the bathroom. We go up to the new Avengers compound.
Yeah, I guess
Whatever we're
compound is
calling
that we
that.
can't keep calling it the bunker. We keep referring to it as the bunker, but it's clearly not that. So yeah, the Avengers compound upstate.
Which I kind of like.
Yes.
And this is it. Peter gets to join the Avengers. He gets a brand new, absolutely breathtaking Iron Spider suit.
Gorgeous Iron Spider suit.
But he turns the offer down because he wants to stay the friendly neighborhood Spider-Man because someone has to watch out for the little guy.
Yeah.
And then
that
the next
is-
2.5 minutes are just the greatest ever. Just this is a test, right? There's nobody behind that door. Yep, and you passed. Good job, kid. See you in the car.
Skedaddle.
And then Pepper Potts coming out of the door, swarmed with reporters, just being like, "Where's the kid? What are we doing?"
Gasped audibly.
Yeah.
When Pepper Potts showed up.
Like, I
did
knew
not expect
something
that
was going to
at
happen
all.
because Vinton was on my left side and he leaned forward, turned his whole body so that he could like be watching my face during this sequence. And I'm just like, what's it like? What, I mean, we've already seen Chris Evans a couple of times. Who else could possibly show? Oh my God!
There was a few moments where I feel like I might have ruined something for Sarah because I knew she was going to freak out, so I just put my hand on her leg when it was about to happen. I was like, just calm down.
And I'm just like, something's going to stop. Okay, something big's coming. Something big's coming.
Some bracing here.
It did nothing to diminish the emotional intensity that Sarah experienced.
No, I went supernova, but then I got better, so it's fine.
Finally, Peter returns home.
That smile that's on his face when he walks out of the compound too is great.
Oh, that's
he gets
really
that
good.
big
Tom
smile.
Holland is so good.
He goes home, finds the package, the brown paper bag from Tony Stark containing his suit, the powered suit.
Right.
He puts it on. He's feeling really good. And that's when Aunt May walks in.
What the fuck?
And then the
And
credits.
that's how we close out the movie, you
Beautiful
guys.
credits. They then retell the whole story of the movie in like cartoon fashion.
With really, really great kind of early 1980s punk aesthetic, which
Yes.
I just
It's
love.
fantastic.
I love to death. Can we talk about how canonically Marissa Tomei is the hottest woman in the MCU?
Apparently so. Yeah.
Because everyone just loves her.
Everybody loves
This
her.
is so
She's
good.
getting free food at the Thai restaurant.
Yep.
and everything.
Sandwich guy loves her.
Yeah,
Tony Stark.
yeah, everyone is in love with Aunt May, which is great. And I love that the next time we get a Spider-Man movie, we're not going to have to deal with Aunt May not knowing. Like,
I love that too.
I'm so
Yeah.
pleased about that.
Yeah.
It's so good. This is such a purposeful step forward too. It isn't just a great movie,
Mm-hmm.
but it is a great movie that will serve as a platform for movies to come. I'm
Yes.
really excited. He's a sophomore in this movie, so we get 2 more Peter Parker high school movies.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
That is, I'm certain. how
Which
this
is,
gonna
as
play
soon
out.
as the credits were rolling, what I said was, I want 30 more of these.
Yes.
I want so much more of this
Yeah.
particular thing.
And we already know from Kevin Feige talking that Spider-Man is going to be the crux of the Marvel Universe moving forward after Infinity War. That Spider-Man 2 is going to follow up directly on those events. It's going to take the flagship title pretty much of what's going to happen, the new phase of the MCU. And it sounds like, from what he has said, it sounds like some of those heroes that we've already had are going to be retiring or disappearing. We're going to be getting into whole new heroes, which makes me think there's going to be something like the Champions, like a younger team led by
Yes.
Spider-Man
Like,
or something. Like
Young
Kamala
Avengers,
Khan, Nova
that kind
Khan,
of-
perhaps, something like that. Yeah, Young Avengers.
Yeah, I'm really
see
into
what
that idea.
happens.
And that would, of course, give us a perfect opportunity to introduce, Miles. We can
Yeah.
bring Miles Morales in as Spider-Man Jr., Spiderling,
Spider Boy.
Spider Guy, Spider Boy, Spider Boy.
I'm
She's
Spider-Man.
Spider-Man. Hey, are you the Spider guy? Spider-Man, do a backflip.
And then he does it!
Do a flip
pretty
guy
good.
is maybe my favorite guy in this entire movie. I love that guy so
So
much.
what is your favorite part of this
Oh, no.
movie?
Oh boy. There's just so much to choose
I
from.
really, really do think that my favorite part is the conversation between Tony and Peter on the ferry, and then whenever Peter gets back home and May opens the door and she's so mad, and she doesn't say anything. Like, that's such a parent
yeah.
thing to do. She gets so angry and then storms off, and then she's yelling at him, and then is like, what's going on? What's this and that? And he just goes, I lost the Stark internship, and he starts crying, and then she just holds on to him like that.
Yeah,
that
she
entire
completely
sequence.
changes in that
Yes,
moment. She's
yeah,
like,
the-
I need to protect you.
Yeah,
Okay.
the fighting
I got
with
this.
parents scene right there in the middle of the movie is my absolute favorite.
Yeah, it's just fantastic.
Beautiful, and everyone does such a good job.
Good job, movie.
Great job! Great job!
Great job.
Great job.
I think my favorite part of the movie is the Ferris Bueller sequence. It's the running through the suburban backyards because that shows how much energy and enthusiasm and dedication Peter has, that he just doesn't give up and he keeps screwing up, crashing through the fence, crashing
Right.
the little girls
Knocks
with the
down
pop
the
tent in the back.
treehouse.
Yes, knocking down the treehouse is such a great beat. So it's just again and again and again, and he's just screwing up, but he's doing so with the best of intentions, and it is still heroic. I love that.
Yeah.
That's my Peter Parker right there.
Yeah.
So brilliant. My favorite part of the film
Is the whole film?
just after the Sony logo shows, and right up until Captain America's last scene on the end credits.
Oh, so the whole film, yeah, the whole
That would
film.
be my favorite part. I know it's a
Entire
little bit of a longer part, but that 2.5 hours, that's really good.
It's a very good part of the movie.
Hey, Sarah, what are we doing next week here on Excelsior?
Next week, we're taking the week off.
We sure are, because Vinton's abandoning us
Yes,
right,
and then so am I.
for the appeal of the West Coast. I guess you are too. Yeah, I'll be alone in the studio next week. You guys, if you would like me to record a solo podcast of Excelsior, too bad. I'm not doing that thing. That would be really sad and lonesome, and I don't want to do it. So we're going to
Then
wait.
what are you? Oh, you're not here. Sarah, what? Oh, you're not here either.
We're going to wait until the team is reassembled. In just
Mostly
a few
reassembled
weeks.
in 2 weeks.
Mostly, yes.
Yes.
You and I are going to sit down with Elizabeth Stevens, whom we adore, to discuss probably just the first season, I think,
Of Agent Carter.
of Marvel's Agent Carter,
Yes.
which is a show that is very near to our hearts. It is
Yes,
a
so we have the
really
next 2
great
weeks
show.
to watch all of that, which is great.
And then we'll have something the following week. TBD.
Yep.
We'll talk about it when we get there, you guys. What? You don't need to know all of our secrets. We're We're paying it close to. There's going to be a post-credit sequence at the end of next week's show when we tell you what to look forward to next. Spider-Man will return in.
Oh man, if you guys enjoyed this show, and how couldn't you, honestly? And you want to support us, you can head over to patreon.com/commonroomradio, where you can kick us $1 a month or whatever you can afford, and you can get gag reels and all kinds of other special stuff. We'll send you a postcard. It'll be great. It'll be wonderful. It'll be lovely. You can talk to us on Twitter at Excelsior Cast. You can find me on Twitter at Sarah Kate Pizant.
You can find me on Twitter at Paper Bullets.
You can find me on Twitter at Flesh Eater, and you can hear more from me from the Read Brave Comics podcast.
Except that you guys are taking off the month.
We are taking off this
You're
month,
on vacation.
but there's plenty of back stuff.
Lots of stuff on there. Yes, I'm on the show. Alistair's on the show. Friend of the show. Emily's on the show.
So many people. So many great creators, too.
Yes.
Great
wonderful.
interviews on that show.
Okay, all right, so we will not see you guys next week, but in 2 weeks we will come back and do Agent Carter with Elizabeth. And so until then, once again from Common Room Radio, I'm Sarah K. Pizant.
I'm Alistair Stevens.
And I'm Vinton Bain. Hi, I'm Vinton Bain, and patience is a very important thing for all podcast listeners. Sometimes you wait around for something, and it's something really important. It's something really great, but other times you just think to yourself, why did I wait for this? How many more of these do I have to do, Alex?